Welcome back to Proxy, everybody, and today we're going to be yet again diving in to some of the new Grotsmas Detachments that have come out in the past week or so. So we've seen a lot of them. The first video I did on this, we covered I think 6 of them, and I did forget the Death Guard, so I am sorry about that. I will talk about them today. But we have a lot of new detachments, and a lot of them look really good. Honestly, a lot of them look really interesting, really fun. Some of them then, some of them don't look that competitive, but I think a lot of them look pretty good, and a few of them do look extremely tournament worthy. So, without further ado, let us go ahead and dive right in. I am going to be making a video, by the way, on specifically the Armored Warhost and the Reaper's Wager in separate videos later on, going into more detail about those. But yeah, without further ado, let us go ahead and talk about these. And of course, we're going to talk about them also in relation to the Eldari and maybe some of the things you should watch out for if you're an Eldar player. So the first one we got here is Veiled Blade Elimination Force. This is actually the detachment for the Imperial agents. So let's go ahead and read through this. They get a detachment rule finally, so that's neat. So it's for Officio Assassinorum units. Okay, so they can use their Overkill, Soulless Horror, and Shieldbreaker abilities twice per battle instead of once per battle. So that's their, assassin type ability, which is pretty good. So they get to use that twice, which is awesome. When you're mustering your army, each assassination unit from your army has the relevant extremist ability shown on the right, and you must increase the points cost of each of those units by the amount shown. If this causes your army to exceed the points limit for the battle you're playing, you cannot include that unit in your army. Okay. Interesting. I don't know why you have to take it, why you're forced to take these, but anyway, let's read them. Calidus Assassin, 40 points. That was a big upgrade. Increases the cost of the model by at least 50%. Twice per battle in your movement phase, you can select one other friendly infantry model that is on the battlefield and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. The selected model is destroyed. Okay. And this model is removed from the battlefield and set up again as close as possible to where that model was destroyed, but not in engagement range. Cannot be used more than once in the same battle round. Interesting. I think that it's definitely an interesting redeployment ability, especially since you can then just do everything you want with the Calidus Assassin afterward. So that's cool. I think that has some cool trickery to it. I like it. I don't like it that it's 40 points and that you have to take it, but it's, it's decent. I don't know how many Calidus Assassins you can take in your army. I think just one, right, guys? But I may be mistaken. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on this and it's more than one. But I think you can probably only take one. Then we have Esoteric Explosives. So this is the Cuxalus Assassin, the Cuckold Assassin, as I like to call him. Each time this model is targeted with the grenade stratagem, one mortal wound is inflicted for each d6 roll of a 3+ instead of a 4+. Is one extra mortal wound on average worth 40 points? I don't know. I think it could be good if you roll like all of them 3+, but that's highly dependent on RNG, so I don't know if I really like that at all. I think that's lame. I think that's a lazy upgrade. So that sucks for the Cuckold Assassin. I guess he was cuckolded again. Intraneural Biotech. So this is the Evisaur Assassin. Once per battle round, you can target this model with heroic intervention or counteroffensive for 0 CP. That's really good. That's super good. I like that. And you can do so even if you've already used the stratagem on a different unit this phase. It's 35 points, but it's a free counteroffensive or intervention once per battle round. That's once per battle round. That's really good. I like that. I like that upgrade. It's pretty cool. Micro Melter Rounds. Okay, here we go. So this is kind of 45 points. It better be good. Let's read it. Oh, it's the Vindicare Assassin, of course. Okay, so this model's Exodus Rifle has anti-monster 4+, anti-vehicle 4+ abilities. I don't know if that's that good, is it? I mean, do you really want to be shooting at vehicles and monsters on a 4+ with the Vindicare Assassin? Right? I guess it's better than nothing, but why is it so many points? When the Vindicare's Exodus Rifle doesn't do that much damage. I mean, it's not like a Bright Lance or something like that, right? It does, I think it's like, what is it, 3 plus D3? So max of 6 damage. I don't know. It's okay. I don't really like it though. I think obviously, proccing dev wounds on a 4+ with this guy is nice, but I don't know if that's worth 45 points when, the problem with this detachment or this army, Imperial agents, if I'm not mistaken, is like anti-monster, anti-vehicle, but this is just not the model you want it on. I mean, you want like actual units with actual anti-tank, right? Okay, so that's their enhancements that you must take. So I think honestly, if you actually do run this army, you have to run all 4 assassins. There's just no other way around it, right? They can use their abilities twice, which is really good. So, you gotta kind of go into that. Let's check out the enhancements. Maybe they're a little bit more incentivized. So, first one, prime target, shooting or fight phase, 1 agents of the Imperium unit from your army. Okay, so this is any unit. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets a character unit, reroll a wound of 1. If that attack is made by an assassination model, and it targets the enemy warlord, you can reroll the wound roll instead. That's kind of cool. I like that, but it just depends who the opponent's warlord is, right? It's only warlord, so yeah, I mean that's good sometimes. I mean, it'd be good to like draw a beat on a character with like the Vindicare Assassin, for example, and be, just re-rolling everything. But okay, that's neat. Hyperstims. Your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 agent of the Imperium character unit in your army. Till the end of the phase, add 1 to the toughness characteristic of models in your unit. In addition, if it is an Avisor assassin, until the end of the phase, it gains a 4+ field no pain ability. That'd be really good, except it's 2 CP. And correct me if I'm wrong, most of the assassins cap out at toughness 4, maybe less. I think some of them are toughness 3. Like, I think the Vindicare's toughness 3, right? And it's +1 toughness. It's only good on the Evisor, and even then, there's going to be times where it's just not going to save your assassin anyway to have 4+ feel no pain. I don't like that. I think that should be 1 CP at the most. That's ridiculous. That kind of reminds me of the, Dark Eldar stratagem that's 2 CP that really should be 1 CP. It's kind of like a worse Phantasm in a lot of cases, but it's 2 CP instead. The Dance Macabre or whatever. I think they got the CP on some of these wrong. Okay, Will Sapping Salvo. Your shooting phase. 1 agents of the Imperium infantry unit from your army that is not selected to shoot. Till the end of the phase, they gain sustained hits 1. In addition, if it's a cuckold assassin unit, until the end of the phase, change the damage characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit to 3. Okay, not bad. Not bad for the cuckold assassin. And I think that, having sustained hits 1 and damage 3 is really good for that model. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe he has a flamer, so maybe it doesn't even matter the sustained hits. But I think just having sustained hits for 1 CP on a unit is good. But it's not the best, right? Especially when this army probably needs something to deal with heavier stuff. So instead of sustained hits, maybe it should be lethal. All right, let's read on here. Got Orbital Oversight. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit selected as targets 1 agents of the Imperium infantry unit. Until the end of the phase, your unit can only be selected as a target of a range attack if the attacking model is within 18 inches. Okay, cool. If your unit has a lone op, the attacking model is within 6. That's really good, guys. That's super good. Orbital Oversight. That's a great stratagem for this list. I think that's awesome. I'm glad they got that. Protect your assassins a little more. Yeah, if you're going to want my assassin, you're going to have to get really close. And maybe you don't want to get that close, you know what I'm saying? So that's really cool. We have Blind Grenades. Your opponent's charge phase just after an enemy unit has declared a charge. 1 agents of the Imperium, grenades, or Vindicare Assassin unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, subtract 1 from charge rolls made by the enemy unit, or if your unit is a Vindicare Assassin, subtract 2 from charge rolls. I don't like that. Here's the thing. I think it was the same thing with the Armored Warhost for the Eldari. A stratagem that reduces charge rolls for a CP of just, literally just 1 or 2 maybe, it's just not enough, right? It's just not going to be enough in most cases. I think it has to be a little stronger, or there has to be some other benefit to it, right? Like, I was always a fan of, they in the Armored Warhost, for example, you know, there should be some sort of like mortal wound being dealt to the unit too, like D3 mortal wounds and -2 to charge. There should be a greater incentive not to do it if you know your opponent has that up their sleeve, you know? Give your opponent some things to debate. But I don't know. I mean, it's one of those super situational stratagems. Might be good sometimes, probably not though. Last one is ensnaring trap. End of your opponent's charge phase. One agents of the Imperium unit that is within 6 inches of one or more enemy units and would be eligible to declare a charge against one or more enemy units. Okay, so your unit can declare charge. Oh, cool. So this is the Dark Angel one. I have noticed, and it's for 1 CP. I have noticed that they've been kind of reusing a lot of strats for a lot of different detachments, and there's like not a lot of originality with a lot of them. Now, the bonus of this is that if it's a Calidus assassin that gets to do it, you get to add 1 to the wound roll when you make that charge. And I think this is only 1 CP, but I do think it's balanced because you don't have a lot of good melee units in Agents of the Imperium. So that's okay. I think 1 CP is okay for this, right? To be honest, I think it's fine. So that's great. I don't hate the enhancements. There's a couple of or stratagems. I think there's a couple of them that kind of suck, but that's like any regular detachment is going to have some stinkers in there that are like super situational. But yeah, I mean, I think in general though, I mean, what people were complaining about is this doesn't fix the army, and I don't think it's going to fix the army. I think basically what GW has with this army is, and don't, you know, if you're out there listening to this and you have this army, don't take this the wrong way. But I think GW, by creating this, is really creating kind of like a niche army for collectors and not really for serious competitive war gamers. I think that they should be competitive, but, you know, let's just put it this way. GW works in strange ways, and when it comes to money, when it comes to some factions, they just get left out of the dust, you know, left out in the dust, left out in the cold. Eldar, we've been there for years. I mean, you know, we're finally getting new models after all these years, but we've had to wait from 2006 to get new models, and some of them even before that. Like Warp Spiders are like way older than that. Yeah, but you know, I also think it's just it's a really cool army in theory, but I don't know. They need to do something with it. I think maybe they're, you know, possibly going to change some things around and make it a little bit better. Who knows? So we'll see. But obviously, not competitive right now. Just lacks the unit diversity and the unit depth, I think, also to be competitive. So we'll just kind of have to hold our breath for Agents of the Imperium. Inquisition. Okay, next one is the Flyblown host. This is the one we missed last week. The Plague Marines. The Nurgle. Death Guard, basically. So, detachment rule. Death Guard infantry units from your army that are not embarked within a transport have Scouts 5 and Stealth. That's great. Stealth army-wide is very powerful. I know some people don't like it, but it's good. Trust me. I mean, coming from somebody who uses Rangers and Mandrakes all the time, it sometimes literally saves your unit. And then that unit can go off and score objectives and other stuff. So Scouts and Stealth is good. Scouts 5, it's a little bit less than most armies, but that makes sense because it's army wide and they're really slow normally. So if it was like Scout 6 or Scout 7, that would be kind of busted. Okay, so enhancements. Droning Chorus is 15-point enhancement, Death Guard infantry model only, range weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit have assault. Cool. That's good, right? Give assault to your unit. They don't normally have it. And advance and shoot on a slow army is really powerful. Then we have Insectile Murmuration, 20 points, Death Guard Infantry. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack that targets a unit that is within contagion range of one or more Death Guardians from your army, reroll a wound roll of 1. I think that's kind of whatever. I think it's good for the own unit, right? The bearer's unit, attacking things in combat with it. It's a combat enhancement. It's not going to do anything for shooting, really. But I like that it has the option of, you know, later in the game when your contagion range is like 9 inches, you could get rerolls to wound of 1 with your shooting. We have Rejuvenation Swarm. Rejuvenating Swarm, Death Guard infantry model only. At the end of each phase, bearer regains all its lost wounds. Wow. 10 points for that? Oof. Yeah, I think that's a little overtuned, personally, for 10 points. I mean, at the end of it's not a once per game thing. It's every single phase, not every turn, every phase. I think if it was at the end of every battle round, that would be way more balanced. I think why not take this on your Terminator Lord, right? Why not take this on your like 6 wound, 7 wound Terminator Lord, however many wounds he has, with super amount of toughness, armor, and invul? Well, why not do that? Yeah, I think that's a little bit strong. Okay, so Plague Veil, 25 points, Death Guard Infantry. While the Bearer's unit is within range of one or more objective models you control, that unit can only be selected. Okay, cool. This is an 18-inch lone op ability for a unit you control. I think that's cool. And I think it's good specifically with, and a lot of you guys are going to like maybe say no to this, but cultists, Nurgle cultists on the backhand objective. I know that's nuts, right? But it saves you from indirect fire, like putting this on a model that can join some cultists and just have them not be targeted, right? So you don't have to worry about indirect anymore. You don't have to worry about a lot of different things that can kill your cultists. I know, like, for example, when I play Dark Reapers against any army with any Chaos Space Marine army, like the first thing I'm killing is cultists with those things, and every time it's like they have to just send a unit back to their home objective. Like if you can spend 25 points not to do that, I think that's worth it. If they're in the mid board, I mean, it's really easy to get within 18, so I really don't think that's that big of a deal, to be honest. It's really powerful against some armies, but not so powerful against others. So, for me, from my own personal experience, I use fire dragons a lot. I use things that are short range anyway. This wouldn't be any kind of problem on an objective. Either I'm going to ignore that unit that turn, or I'm totally just going to, not give a fuck about it and just go within 18. So, yeah, anyway, I think this is actually really good for, like, back objective guarding and stuff like that. Okay, let's look at the strats. Nauseating paroxysms. Start of the fight phase, Death Guard infantry unit. Select one enemy unit within engagement range of your unit. That unit must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from the result. I don't know. That's kind of shitty. I think that's probably like a situational thing where you just want to really prevent them from using stratagems. Um, Vermin Cloud, fight phase, one Death Guard infantry unit from your army that has not been selected to fight. Oh, that has not been. Okay, so at the end of the phase, each time model makes a pile-in or consolidation move. Yeah, it can move up to 6 instead of 3. Okay, that's normal. So that's 6 inches instead of 3-inch consolidation. That's fine. Eye of the Swarm, your shooting phase, Death Guard infantry unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. It gains their weapons gain the pistol ability except blast weapons. So that's cool. That just allows them to shoot in combat. That's awesome. Makes them stickier in combat and more deadly. Droning Horror, your shooting phase. One Death Guard infantry unit from your army that hasn't shot yet. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in the unit makes a range attack, reroll a hit roll 1. If the attack is within half range, you can reroll a hit roll instead. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Good ability. Enervating Onslaught. Your charge phase just after a Death Guard infantry unit from your army makes a charge. Select one enemy unit with engagement range. Roll a d6 for each model in your unit that is within engagement range of that unit, adding 1 to the result if it is not a cultist or poxwalker model, so they have to not be that. For each 5+, the selected enemy suffers 1 mortal wound to a max of 6. This seems really good, but if you look at the units that it's going to be on things like Plague Marines, and it's going to be on things like Terminators. I don't think you're getting this many cultists within engagement range. It's just, it's really hard to do that. So using that 4+ with cultists or poxwalkers is going to be difficult sometimes. But Death Guard infantry, Terminators especially, yeah, you can get, maybe 5 of them within engagement range, and then, yeah, you roll 5 dice on a 4+. It's kind of like a lesser grenade. That's okay, I think. And then lastly, Myphetic Invigoration. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One Death Guard infantry unit from your army that is within 6 of a Mythic Blightholder unit that was selected. Okay. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, if the strength characteristic of the attack is greater than the toughness characteristic of the unit, subtract 1 wound. Okay, so it's like a, situational fortune, if the strength is higher than your toughness. I think that's okay. I think that really helps against things like shuriken cannons. Like, shuriken cannons really just absolutely sweep through a lot of the Death Guard units. But this is some protection against that. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. This is a solid detachment. I think they have a really powerful detachment rule, and they have some really good enhancements. And then, of course, the stratagems are decent as well. They're solid. So, yeah, I think this is a cool detachment for Death Guard. And Scouts 5 is great. Now, the counter to this for the Eldar, of course, is that we have Rangers, right? So we can totally just lock down their stealth, or excuse me, their scouts. And as far as the stealth goes, yeah, we can't knock that down. We're going to have to just shoot them, but we have guide, we have things with guide and stuff like that. In my particular army, I use Wind Riders. They're going to be hitting on 4s now instead of 3s, but I also am rerolling everything and going for 6s usually. So it's good. It gives your army more durability, but it's not over. You can still overcome it. You can still overcome that ability. And it's only guard infantry units, and you're going to want other stuff in your army too, like tanks. So their tanks aren't getting stealth. Their tanks aren't getting Scouts 5, right? It's just the infantry. I really like this. I think it's flavorful. I think you got some tanks for support. You definitely want those Mycetic Blight Haulers for the stratagems and stuff. But then mostly you're going to have Death Guard Terminators, Plague Marines, and stuff like that. Just spreading the illness. God, I hate Death Guard so much. But they're cool. I respect Death Guard players for playing such a nasty army. Okay, cool detachment. Moving on. Solar Spearhead. Okay, this is the Custodes one. So I remember reading about this and thinking it was just another one of those spam kind of detachments that just wants to spam one thing over and over again, the dreadnoughts, the vehicles. So let's go ahead and read it. Auric armor. Yeah, it's a vehicle one, but of course it's going to be way better than the armored warhost, right? While an Adeptus Custodes vehicle from your army is at starting strength, add to the objective control characteristic. Okay, so on objectives, they have a little bit more OC. That's good. While an Adeptus Custodes vehicle from your army is below starting strength, so once it starts taking damage, you start rerolling ones to hit. Cool. While an Adeptus Custodes vehicle is below half strength, you reroll hits and wounds of 1. Okay, I think that's cool and flavorful. To be honest with you, though, there's a lot of things in the game that are just going to one-shot these if they go onto the middle, so you gotta have to be careful. We're going to have to see what kind of stratagems they have to prevent that from happening. Mortai Ancients, add 2 the move characteristic of models in the Adeptus Custodes Walker units from your army and add 1 to advance and charge rolls for such units. Yeah, this is the part I was like, okay, this is good on its own. If you just had Auric armor, I think that'd be enough for a good detachment bonus. But then you have this for the walkers, and it's like, alright, you're just getting everything now. Keywords, and by the way, I don't think Adeptus Custodes are like broken or anything. I just think that when you have something like this, it's like double detachment rule. It's kind of weird to me. Okay, so they're really powerful. So that's why people are just gonna spam walkers, right? Okay, so here we go. In the muster army step, you can select up to 2 Adeptus Custodes walkers models from your army. They gain the character keyword, which means that they can be your warlord and given enhancements. Okay, so that's why I was also saying they can just be spammed basically in this army. So let's look at the enhancements. You have Adamantine Talisman. Improve the attacks, strength, and damage characteristics of melee weapons equipped by the Bearbar 1. Yeah, pretty good. That's solid. I don't think that's broken it or anything like that. I think it's pretty solid. Adeptus Custodes, Terminators, and characters, and now the Dreadnoughts, they can also be characters. I don't think that's super broken on them for 25 points. I think that's pretty fair. Augury Uplink, Feel No Pain 5 plus for 25 points. Again, I mean, it's not super broken because I think the regular detachment gets some sort of Feel No Pain thing on a 5 plus. So that's not like something new, but it's still really strong, right? On your Warlord. Put this on your Warlord and become really tough. Honor of the Fallen, vehicle model only, 15 points, while friendly Adeptus Custodes infantry or mounted unit is within 6. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. So it's full rerolls, because remember, basically everything in this army hits on 2s. That's pretty decent. Veteran of the... I don't even want to pronounce that. Cataphracoi? I don't know. I want to say cataphract, but... And then there's... I don't know. This is... I remember this from, like, a Rome Total War game when I was playing it way back in the day. Anyway, 10 points. Adeptus Custodi infantry or mounted model. In your movement phase, select 1 Adeptus Custodes vehicle or mounted unit within 6 until the start of the Okay, eligible to shoot in a turn when ship fell back. Okay, that's fine. That's good. So it looks like this is not only, maybe I was slightly wrong on this. You're also going to need some jet bike models too, right? To proc some of these enhancements and stuff. But yeah. Okay, so let's look at the enhancements. Flawless construction, 1 CP during your opponent's shoot or fight phase just after selecting targets. You target a vehicle unit of your own until the end of the phase. Each time an attack targets a model in your unit if the strength characteristic is greater. Okay, so this is -1 to wound if the strength of the attack is greater than your toughness. That's pretty good. Emperor's Vengeance. Fight phase just after selecting targets. Adeptus Custodes unit. Okay, so this is... Oh, this is pretty strong. Okay, so till the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, roll a d6, adding 1 to the result. If it's a walker, on a 4+, it'll be 3+ with walkers, which is why I was saying you spam these things. Do not remove it to play, can make all of its attacks, and then it's removed from play. Okay, and it's assumed to have 1 wound remaining, which means it will suffer from being damaged. So I think that's a little bit of a balancing factor because Adeptus Custodes models are really strong in combat, but they're still hitting on 3s, so there you go. That's good. Don't assault these guys because you're not going to live through it. Wrathful Advance. Okay, so just... Okay, so this is a greater pile-in move. I don't know how good that is, to be honest. I mean, consolidation moves are typically better. But until the end of phase, each time model in your unit makes a pile-in move, it can move up to D3+3 instead of normal 3. I mean, I guess it kind of helps the jet bike models because they're so big, maybe. But I don't know. I don't think that's that great, but I could be wrong. Usually when I pile in with my own units, I get everything in combat just fine. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they have big bases and they can't all get in, right? Okay, unstoppable. Start of your movement phase. Until the end of the phase, models in your unit can move horizontally through models and terrain features. Okay, this is what I was... So it's an Adeptus Custodes vehicle or mounted unit. This is really powerful. I wish the Eldari detachment got something like this. I'm really kind of sad that that didn't happen. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I feel like vectored engines or some of the other... One of the other stratagems, maybe the anti-charge stratagem, should have been this. But it's not. So Custodes get it, but... And Necrons get it, but the Eldari don't. That was really like a low blow for me. But anyway, okay. So, yeah, that's really good, obviously. Yeah, being able to walk through walls with walkers, excellent. Relentless Persecution, your movement phase, just after an Adeptus Custodes vehicle from your unit advances. Until the end of the turn, if your unit has a walker ability, okay, so it can shoot in a turn in which it advanced, and if it's a walker, it can declare a charge and shoot in a turn in which it advanced instead. Okay. That's good. That's really powerful. You're already getting +2 to your movement, and now you get advance and charge for a CP. That's strong. Punishment, and you get this. You can walk through walls too, so you can combine this with walk through walls as well. Punishment, inescapable. Your shooting phase. One Adeptus Custodes unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the ignores cover ability. Until the end of the phase, each time a model makes an attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to the target's ballistic skill or rolls to hit. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, honestly, especially against armies with stealth or, stuff like that. Honestly, though, normally, like, for our army, for Eldar, if something in a Custodes list is shooting at Rangers, they're probably not going to live anyway. This is just overkill, right? But it's a good way to make them waste CP. So, a good way to make a Custodes player waste some CP on Rangers is be like, yeah, they have stealth and they have cover, and then this Custodes player's brain is going to activate and be like, oh, I have a stratagem for this, and then they're going to use the stratagem not realizing, wait a second, mathematically speaking, I'm probably still going to kill the Rangers because I'm hitting on 3s, I'm re-rolling 1s usually because of some character, and I'm wounding on 3s or 2s with a bunch of damage. Like, you're just going to kill them anyway, right? Even if you do have Ignores cover. But this is a good way of kind of like, and you don't have to metagame it. You just have to mention, yeah, they have stealth, and they're in cover, and usually what will happen is the player will go, I'm going to use punishing inescapable. I'm sorry, I just couldn't help it. Okay, so here's some backstory with me and Custodes. When Custodes first came out, everybody in my shop started playing Custodes. It was so annoying. And when they first came out, they were really strong. Like they did a lot of shit. So it was like just having one thing on top of another. And it did take me a little bit to get used to playing against that style, but it was just every single player was playing Custodes, and that's really why I got kind of annoyed with the Custodes. And even now, like, so many people pick up this army because, they're super easy to get into, they're super easy to paint. They're basically the starter army. Like, like a lot of people think the starter army is like Ultramarines, but it's actually Adeptus Custodes nowadays. Okay, anyway, but yeah, this army is going to have a lot of walkers, going to have a lot of vehicles. It's going to hit you really hard. It's going to be very elite, though. You're not going to have much models in this army. If you are a Custodes player and you want to play the Solar Spearhead, it's not an easy button. Good players will be able to, block your movement. Like, okay, for example, right? If you're playing Eldar and you want to stop the unstoppable ability, just throw some rangers out there to screen, or use some swooping hawks to swoop down and screen for you so you don't get charged. And then your opponent can't really do anything about it because they. Oh, never mind. Excuse me, sorry, I misread this. Models in your unit can move horizontally through models. And I thought it was just terrain. Okay, never mind. Totally, totally can't do that. Um, so how do you stop it? Well, you put something right in front of your own unit so that your opponent has to hit that unit first. So there's a different way of screening. You don't screen right in front of them. You basically screen with a unit right in front of what you need to, keep protected, and then that way your opponent actually can't get to the models if you position them correctly. Like, for example, you do have Wrathful Advance, right? You can pile in, and this is probably why they gave Custodes players this as well. But this is just too much stuff, right? Like, this is too many CP. If you want to advance, if you want to pile in extra, if you want to move through terrain, like, you're spending a lot of CP to do it, and you're just going to run out of CP. And oftentimes, Custodes models are many, many times more expensive than anything we have in our army, except for like Avatar of Cain, Wraithguard, and stuff like that. So if your opponent goes balls to the wall for like a unit of fire dragons, or like goes balls to the wall for like one single fire prism, it's not going to be worth it for them at the end of the day because they're going to lose their model and they're probably going to waste a bunch of CP doing it, right? So there is that. I think this army is not like OP or anything, but it's definitely interesting. But it does seem a little harder to play for people who are just looking for an easy button. It's not an easy button, right? Especially if you're using a lot of like high cost single entity models. Okay, let's go on to the next one because I'm not a pro Adeptus Custodes player or anything. So Librarius Conclave. Okay, so this is the Space Marine Psychic Detachment. Yes, I heard about an insane stratagem that allows you to get a bunch of mortal wounds, but let's read this. It actually looks kind of fun. I'm hoping that the Eldar one is kind of similar. So, Psychic Disciples, start of the battle round, select one of the following Psychic disciplines. Until the end of the battle round, that applies to all Psyker units in your army. So add 2 to the movement characteristic. You can add 2 to the move. You can, each time a model makes an attack, reroll hit roll 1 and wound roll 1. That's kind of cool. Each time a range attack made by a model in this unit targets an enemy unit within 12, improve the arm penetration characteristic by 1. That's cool. Telekinesis, each time a range attack targets this unit, subtract 1 from the strength characteristic of the attack. That's really good. Telepathy Discipline. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, you can ignore all modifiers to the attack's weapon skill or ballistic skill, or modifiers to the hit roll. That's really good too. So you have a lot of options here. Whatever you need to use, you can use it until the end of the battle round. And it's not limited. It's not like you just pick one of these once and can't use it again ever. That's really good. Let's check out the enhancements. Prescience. Oh, I remember this one. You guys remember this one from back in like 6th edition when Prescience came out? The psychic power for everybody to reroll the hits. Let's see if it's the same thing. Psyker model only. Once per turn, when an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 9 of the bearer, you can move it up to d6 or up to 6 instead if the Divination Disciple is active for your army. Divination Discipline. Oh, okay. The reroll hits rolls and wound rolls 1. Okay, that's really cool. That's really good. I think that's awesome. Right? It's a 6-inch reactive move for a Psyker unit. Cool. Celerity. Yeah, see, I like abilities like this. I like enhancements like this. They're really interesting. Adept is a started psyker unit or model. The bearer unit, the bearer's unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn which it advanced. Really good. And if the biomancy discipline is active, it is eligible to declare charge in a turn in which it fell back. Cool. It's 30 points. That's pretty expensive, but it is good. Obscuration, 20 points. Psyker model only. Enemy units cannot use the Fire Overwatch stratagem at the bearer's unit, and if the telepathy discipline is active for your army, the bearer's unit cannot be targeted by range attacks unless the attack model is within 18. Also really good. That's a really good ability. That's awesome. Good enhancement. Fusillade, Adeptus Achari's Psyker model. Models in the bearer's unit gain anti-monster 5+ and anti-vehicle 5+. Ooh. That's the... Okay, so this is the one that people were saying were broken for 15 points. So you get a number of abilities. The sustained hits one ability if the pyromancy discipline is active, and you're also getting, right, more armor pen. And then add 6 to the range characteristics if you have the telekinesis discipline. So that's the subtract 1 from strength. I think this is really good with like Stern Guard, right? That's what they were saying. Like Stern Guard rerolls hits, can just obliterate things. Monsters and vehicles, that is, on anti 5+. That's really strong. And then I think, you might have anti infantry 5+ normally on combat weapons. So you're basically getting like anti everything on 4 or 5+. That's really strong for 15 points. All right, let's check out the enhancements here. Or stratagems. Sensory Assault, Command Phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes Psyker unit from your army. Select 1 enemy unit that is within 18 and visible to 1 Psyker model in your unit until the start of the next turn. That enemy unit is pinned. Pinned unit, subtract 2 from the unit's move, 2 from their advance rolls. No, sorry, 2 from the movement characteristic and subtract 2 from charge rolls made for it. In addition, if the telepathy discipline is active, that enemy unit must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from the result. It's funny, I think a couple of us were having a discussion on the Discord about the Night Spinner ability and if it was like this or if it was written differently, and it is written differently. I think it's -2 to move characteristic, -2 to advance rolls, and -2 to charge rolls for the Night Spinner. But it looks like it's a little bit worse for the CP, or, for the stratagem. All right, Armor of Contempt, we know what that does. That's basic to all Space Marines, -1 to AP. It did get nerfed. Fiery Shield. Okay, so basically you target 1 infantry unit, and if it's within a Psyker model, okay, 1 infantry unit or mounted unit within 18 inches of a Psyker model. Okay, boom. And it's in the fight phase, just after you select targets. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets units, subtract 1 from the hit roll, and if the pyromancy discipline is active for your army, weapons have the hazardous ability. Wow, okay, that's really good. And that's really... So I'm already seeing that this army is going to be kind of like harder to play, because you really need to know what your opponent can do to maximize the effect of a lot of these stratagems. Okay, Iron Arm. Fight phase. 1 infantry unit that is within 18 inches of 1 or more Adeptus Astartes Psyker models. Till the end of the phase, add 1 to the strength characters of melee attacks by your unit. Add 2 if the biomancy's discipline is active. That's really cool. I like that. Strength 10 Power Fists. Here we go. All right. Assail. Shooting phase. 1 Adeptus Psyker from your army that is eligible to shoot. Select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches and visible to the Psyker, and roll 6d6, adding 1 to the result if the telekinesis discipline is active. For each 4+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So this is an 18-inch grenade, essentially. But you cannot target models with the lone operative ability, it looks like. So, yeah. Excluding units with a lone operative ability. So you can't use it to get lone operatives, which I'm glad they actually got rid of this, right? They added this in, because that would be really OP if they didn't. So yeah, that's pretty good. A long range grenade that possibly is on a 3+ for a CP. Prescient Precision. Your shooting phase. Ooh, okay, this is also very powerful, right? Psyker unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. You can have lethal hits and the ignores cover. as well if the divination discipline is active for your army. So it's normally just lethal hits, which is already good, but you also get ignores cover if divination is active. Yeah, I really like this detachment. I think it's cool. I think it's flavorful. I think it's fun. I think you have to think to actually use it correctly. You know, you have things that are given bonuses depending on which discipline you have, and which discipline you have at the time might not match up with what you want to do in the next turn or in your opponent's turn, what they're going to do. So there's a lot of thinking involved in this detachment, so I really like it. Yeah, I think this is cool. This is a really good Marine detachment, and when you combine it with things like Oath of Moment, with, you know, +1 to wound and rerolls hits, I actually think it's really strong and might be a contender for competitive play. I mean, obviously, it does require more brain power than a lot of Space Marine detachments currently, but that's why I like it. I think any army that requires a lot of thinking, but rewards you for that, is awesome. And I don't care if it's Smurfs or anything else, even though I hate Smurfs. It's still cool. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Tactical Brigade, the Orc one. I was looking forward to this one. I haven't read this yet, so this is going to be new for me. So, detachment rule. Listen here. God, the orcs are so hilarious. I could never, I don't like their play style at all, but they're funny. You have to admit that. Okay, once per battle round in your command phase or being set up on the battlefield in your movement phase, each boss, Snickrot, mech, or war boss model in your army can issue tactics abilities. Could you just imagine orcs being like, we have tactics? As and of course the tactics are like just kill the enemy, you know, in various ways. To do so, select one or more tactics abilities below and select one friendly orcs unit within 6 inches of that model to issue to them. Okay. If you select two tactics, that model must take a leadership test. If failed, the selected unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, right? The brain power required to actually listen to other orcs is too much, so they suffer mortal wounds for it. Until the start of your next command phase, the selected unit is affected with the selected tactics. Okay. A unit cannot have tactics issued to it more than once per round. Tactics abilities cannot be issued to battle shock units. Okay, so this is kind of like orders, right? They're issuing tactics, but it's actually orders with, you know, a little bit of a tweak here. So get stuck in. You can reroll charge rolls made for this unit. Get on with it. Add 1 to the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in this unit. You have sneaky stalking, infantry and mounted models only, excluding meganobs. Of course, you can't stalk with meganobs. That's impossible. It's not orky. In this unit, have the stealth ability. Okay, so models in this unit have the stealth ability, and each time a range attack is made against them, they have cover. Cool. Shooter drills. Each time an infantry or mounted. Every time I think of orc shooting, I just laugh. Each time an infantry model or mounted model in this unit makes a range attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Okay, that's pretty good. So they're hitting on 4s. That's interesting because they're so trained, you know, they're trained so much they can hit on 4s, just like Imperial Guardsmen. Oh god, that's great. Okay, so this just seems really fun. So it seems like it's okay, so that's interesting. So this is what it seems like. It seems like one model in your army, whether it be boss, Necrot, mech, or war boss, can issue 2 orders. And if you do issue 2 orders, you suffer D3 mortal wounds if you fail a leadership test, which is cool. So I was wrong. It's not the orc unit, it's the actual model ordering the fucking orcs around, which actually is more funny, right? Because the brain power required to, like, process the tactics is just so powerful that it's so beyond the orc, you know, brain that they just start suffering for it. Skywad Leader, let's look at the enhancements, 15 points. War Boss model only. During the declare battle formation step, the bearer can be attached to commandos. While leading commandos, it has infiltrators and stealth. Cool. Like a stealthy boss. That's that would be really cool for like conversions, if you know what I mean. Like, oh my god, so funny. I could just imagine, you know, somebody converting a stealthy orc, and it's like an orc with like maybe like, I don't know, like muffled boots or something like that, and he thinks he's being super stealthy. Or he's like painted black instead of like red. Mech Captain, 35 points. Big mech and mega armor, big mech with shock attack gun. During the declared battle formation step, the bearer can be attached to a flash gets unit. Each time a model, ooh, that's nasty. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes a range attack, you can re-roll the hit roll. Okay, you know who this is, guys? Badruck is back. That's Captain Badruck. That's exactly what he does. Okay, so you take you take a big mech, you slap this enhancement on him, and you just it's Captain Badrock, right? You get a reroll the hit roll for flash gets, and you can get +1 to hit for your shooter drills. So you can, issue that order to that unit. That's really good. I like that. That's some good stuff. Mork's Cunning. Orc model only. After both players have deployed their armies, select up to 3 units from your army and redeploy them. Okay, this is the basic redeploy, right? It's the same. It looks like a lot of detachments are getting this redeploy ability. I think it's because GW realizes that actually this ability is just, it's not game changing. It's not game breaking. It just adds a little bit more fun to the deployment steps, so they put it in there. That's all. All right, Gob Boomer. Okay, under certain contexts, this actually might sound a little bit funny to some people. I'll leave it at that. But we're going to go ahead and launch the Gob Boomer at somebody. Warlock, or sorry, Warlock. I'm too much of an Eldari player. Warboss or mech model only. Each time the bearer issues tactics, it can do so to a friendly Orcs infantry or mounted unit with an 18 instead of 6. That's really good. You definitely want this. You definitely want the Gob Boomer in your army for 10 points. Okay, that's cool. That's really interesting. I think, obviously most people are just gonna just do the reroll charge rolls and the +1 to hit with Badrock's mech captain upgrade, right? Some of these are like whatever, but you can actually get some really good things going on, right? So like you can have something with rerolls charge rolls, or if you already have that, you can add +1 strength to 2 units. That's really good. Wow. Okay, so it also looks like you can double up on tactics, so you could do 2 for 1 unit, right? So you could reroll charge rolls and add +1 of the strengths of melee weapons if you want. Like for Badrock's unit, if you wanted to run the mech captain upgrade, you could do shooter drills, and you could also do sneaky stalk-ins, so they get stealth and benefit of cover from shooting. It's kind of cool, right? And then Storm Boys get battle line. Okay, check out the strats. I think this detachment looks cool so far. I have nothing to say about it other than awesome. It's awesome. That's ours. Oh god. Okay, command phase. One Orcs unit from your army that is within engagement range of one or more enemy units until the start of your next command phase. Add 1 to the objective characteristic of models in your unit. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good on Orcs, especially like with Orc boys who have OC2 already. Alright, next one is Fight Propa. Fight phase. One Orcs infantry or Orcs mounted unit in your army that has not been selected to fight. You can gain sustained hits 1 or lethal hits until the end of the phase by melee weapons. Super, super strong. This is super good, especially with rerolls to hit, right? You have some sort of ability to rerolls to hit. That's really strong. Wow. Really good. Okay, so that's Fight Propa. That's just an altogether good damage stratagem. Tactical Retreat. They should have. I know how they spelled it different and everything, but I thought they should have named it like "We's not running" or something like that. I don't know. Your movement phase, just after an Orcs unit in your army falls back, target that Orc unit until the end of the phase. Your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge and turn which it fell back. Okay, cool. So this is obviously matchless agility for Orcs. Crunch and Descent. Your charge phase, just after a Stormboy's unit from your army ends a charge move. Select. Okay, so this is just basically the jump pack intercessor's ability, right? You roll a d6 for each model in the unit. On a 4+, they suffer 1 mortal wound to a maximum of 6. It's just giving them the intercessor's ability. Okay, on to the next. Your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit falls back, you can select 1 Orc unit, can make a normal move of up to 6 after they fall back. Interesting. Okay. That's really interesting. Now, what it is it has to be within engagement range of that enemy unit. At the start of the phase, you can make a normal move of up to 6, but remember, it doesn't look like you can actually re-engage them, right? You can't re-engage that unit, but you can move out of the way to safety. This is cool. I like this. This is a really good situational stratagem. This is what I would call a beautiful situational stratagem. Might not happen all the time, but when it does happen, literally can change the course of the game. Really good. And it's way better than like -2 to charge or whatever the hell the Eldar one is. Grav propulsion or whatever stupid thing. Then we have Dead Sneaky. Okay. I think they could have done a better job coming up with the name of that. End of your opponent's fight phase. One commandos or Stormboys unit from your army that is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. Remove your unit from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserve. Also really good. Uppy downy for the... So this, it's kind of cool because this kind of gives us a good indication of where the Eldari detachments are going to be when we get our codex. I think there's going to be a lot of like this kind of stuff, right? Like we lost Skyleap, but we gained this stratagem for certain detachments, right? Like I could see this detachment being in a Laytalk, right? I could because it's one commandos or Stormboys, so I could definitely see this, right? Being in the Laytalk detachment. Definitely. By the way, the name, I think they just got lazy at the end of it. They're like, God, we're tired of making these orky jokes. Like, we're done. Let's just replace the. Let's not even put the little comma here or apostrophe here. Let's just get rid of the A and call it a day, guys. What do you say? And they're just like, yeah, let's do it. This is too much. We're too orked out. Okay, I think the orc detachment's good. I think it's awesome. It looks fun. You know, at least it looks interesting. I don't know if it's as good as like Bully Boys or Dread Mob or whatever, but it looks really fun. It looks really good. So anyway, that's me as a non-orc player thinking this looks awesome and fun. So hopefully orc players like it too. Let's move on to the next one. And we got Iconoclast fiefdom. Oh no, this is the Chaos Knights, right? This is actually, I read this and it looked pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So, detachment rule Dreaded Masters. Dread Tyrant's Aura. While a friendly damned unit is within 9 of this unit, each time a model makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1. Okay, that's pretty cool. So, the Dread Tyrant's Aura is basically a buff for Dread damned units. So, Titanic Chaos Knights have the following abilities. Interesting. Okay. So the big knights, basically. So, people who are saying, hey, make big knights really good again, do this. Yeah, I think they've just done that. They've just made it possible to use these in games again. All Chaos Knights have the following ability, Dark Sacrifice. Each time a Chaos Knights unit with this ability is selected to shoot or fight, it can make a Dark Sacrifice. If it does select one damned unit within 6, that damned unit must take a leadership test. If passed, destroy D3 models in the damned unit. If failed, destroy D3 plus 3 models in the damned unit. In either case, then select one of the following abilities for your Chaos Knights unit's weapons to have until the end of the phase, either lethal hits or sustained hits. That's awesome. What an awesome and flavorful ability. So, of course, the damned units absolutely have to be Chaos Cultists, right? The chaff units that you want to use to buff up your army. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And you can include up to 500 points of them in your army. So you definitely want to fill out the full 500, I think. Just tons of cultists. I mean, maybe not that many cultists, but you definitely want at least 3-4 squads of them, in my opinion, just to make sure that you can keep all the units that you have with lethal hits and sustained hits throughout the game. You have Profane Altar, Chaos Knights model only. Each time you make a Dark Sacrifice, the maximum number of models that are destroyed in the selected damned unit. Okay, so each time you make a Dark Sacrifice, the maximum number of models are destroyed. But until the end of the phase, the bearer's weapons have both lethal hits and sustained hits. Interesting. I don't know if you always want to do that, because I think in some cases it's just not going to be worth it to have both. But there's going to be some cases where, like, yes, I want everything. I need to kill this thing, and I don't care how many cultists I have to sacrifice to do it. Pave the Way is 15 points, Chaos model only, or Chaos Knights model only. At the start of the Declare Battle Formation step, you can select up to 3 damned units from your army, and they have Scout 6. That's really good. That's really good. Pretty cool. Tyrant's Banner. And again, by the way, for any Eldar player looking at this and being like, oh, Scout 6, they have more mobility. We have so many units that infiltrate. I don't think anything in this army really has infiltrate, so it's an easy counter. It's just something fun to use, that's all. Tyrant's Banner, 5 points. Chaos Knights model only. Each time the bearer makes a Dark Sacrifice, select one visible damned unit to take a leadership test instead of a damned unit within 6. Okay? That's good. Means you don't have to worry about range. I would use this on a model in the backfield, so you don't need to worry about running out of cultists. Diabolical Resilience. Chaos Knight's model only. Has Feel No Pain 6+, and you can ignore any or all modifiers to its move characteristic and or advanced charge rolls made for it. Pretty good. Feel No Pain 6+ is good. 35 points is a little bit expensive, but you probably want to put this on like your biggest, baddest Chaos Knight and just call it a day. And just Feel No Pain 6+ can be good in certain circumstances. I like what I see so far. Let's check out the stratagems. Avenge the Masters. One Chaos Knights unit, any phase, one Chaos Knights unit from your army that was just destroyed. Until the end of the battle, the enemy unit that destroyed your unit is marked. Each time a damned model from your army makes an attack against it, it gets lethal hits. That's kind of cool. I like that. So basically makes your cultists better. Yeah, you definitely want the full amount of cultists in this list, for sure. Absolutely. Wretched Masses, 2 CP, so this has to be either really good or it's going to suck. Any phase, one damned unit from your army that was just destroyed. You can use the stratagem even though it was destroyed. Add a new... Okay, so this is reinforcements for damned units. Cool. So you'll probably want a big unit of 20 at some point in the battle, maybe. You can use the stratagem once per battle. Okay, so it's just like reinforcements. Soul Hunger. Fight phase. Just after a Chaos Knights unit from your army is fought. The Chaos Knights unit, if one or more models were destroyed as a result of those attacks, your unit regains D3 wounds. If one or more models from Battle Shocked units were destroyed as a result, you gain D3 plus 2 wounds lost instead. That is really good. Interesting. Well, I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, you're not always going to be Battle Shocked, but you definitely get a little bit of healing out of it, so it's not bad. Unrestrained Rage. Your movement phase, just after a Chaos Knights unit from your army advances or falls back. You can shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced or fell back. Great. Perfect stratagem. Worthless Channel. Of course, the worthless cultists. Your shooting phase, one damned unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, enemy units are not considered to be within engagement range of your unit for the purpose of selecting target. Ooh. That is really good. But while your model's unit is within engagement range of your unit, roll d6. On a 4+1 model of your unit is destroyed after the attacking unit finishes. That's not bad. That's a great strat. Being able to shoot something that's engaged with cultists just right out of combat, that's amazing. That's really good. Of course, you could just fall back with the cultists and not spend the CP. There is that, but I think there's something flavorful about this, right? Like, yeah, you could just fall back with the cultists and not suffer any damage, but why would you want to do that when you can spend a CP and kill your own models, right? I mean, come on. I think this actually is really good against units that prevent you from falling back. Like, I know there's a lot of armies that just straight up say, no, you can't fall back on a 4+. And this is where that would be really good. All right, last stratagem, Preserve the Idols. Your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move. One Chaos Knights unit from your army that is within 9 inches of that unit. Select one damned unit from your army that is not battle shocked and is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units and is within 6 inches of your unit. That damned unit can make a normal move of up to 6, but it must end this move closer to that enemy unit than when it started the move. Interesting. So it's like, okay, so this is like a free screen kind of, right? You use the ability on a Chaos Knights model. A damned unit can then move in front of the Chaos Knights model and be like, sacrifice us, you know? Again, that's a really flavorful stratagem. I think it's really cool, actually, as well. And it makes sense, right? Charge blocking and stuff. The cultists would definitely move in front of something to protect their Dark Masters. Those filthy, filthy cultists. I like this a lot. I think there's a lot of flavor in this, and it seems fun to play. Obviously they don't have the phantasm thing where they can move through terrain and walls and stuff, but I don't think you technically need that, right? I think that's just it's good to have, obviously, but you don't need it. So that's cool. I like this detachment. I don't play Chaos Knights, but I like how they kind of included the ability for Chaos Knights to take cultist units just so that you have some variety in your lists. Okay, let's look to the next detachment. We got the Warpbane tax. Did we already look at this? Warpbane. No, we didn't. This is the Grey Knight one. Okay, so this is Grey Knights. So this is one of the more powerful ones, but it has a little bit less mobility, I think, than the previous detachment. Hollowed ground. So this is one of those you have to control objectives to get bonuses kind of detachments. So your deployment zone is always within hollowed ground. The area of the battlefield within 6 inches of one or more purifier squads is always within holy ground. At the start of any phase, if you control at least half the objective markers within no man's land is within hollowed ground. At the start of any phase, if you control your opponent's objectives, their deployment zone is in hollowed ground. Okay, so each time a model in a Grey Knights unit from your army makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If it's within the hollowed ground, you can reroll a hit roll instead. Really good. Having the ability to just reroll all hits, if it's a purifier squad or with it wholly within the hollowed ground, is awesome. It says and or. So you could use purifiers and you could put a model within their aura bubble of 6 inches and you get reroll hits on everything in that bubble. That's really powerful, especially with the pick up 3 units, deep strike 3 units per turn ability. Alright, Mandalorian Reculary. I don't know. Some of these things I can't pronounce. Sorry. Grey Knight model only. While the bearer's unit is not battle shocked, add 3 to the objective control characteristic. Okay, I think it would be good on like a Terminator unit or Paladin unit, right? Because you want to be able to out OC your opponents, and Paladins only have like 1 OC apiece, so this could kind of add a little bit to the squad. I don't know if it's worth 20 points though. Radiant Champion, 15 points. Grey Knight Infantry. Bearer's melee weapons have precision. If you are within the hollowed ground, each time a melee attack made by the bearer scores a wound, the target of that attack suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any normal damage. That's really good. That is a perfect assassination thing, because if you think about it, if you have like 5 attacks and maybe like 4 hit and 3 wound, you're getting 3 mortal wounds, right? Each time. It says each time a melee attack scores a wound. In addition, that's guys, that's kind of OP. Am I right? That's kind of a little bit OP for 15 points. I think that's really good. And it gives them precision as well. That's insane. You do have to be wholly within the hollowed ground, though. Okay, File of the Abyss, 25 points. Grey Knight Infantry model only. Models in the bearer's unit have stealth. For 25 points, I don't know, but it is a good ability. I just don't know if it saves 5 Grey Knights if they're out in the open, right? I mean, it's really... I don't know about this ability. Let me know in the comments if you like it. I think it's good on things like Paladins to make them extra tough, but I don't know about any or every model. Paragon of Saint, and it would be really good on like, basically Dread Knights, right? It'd be really good on Nemesis Dread Knights, but only infantry. So, all right, Paragon of Sanctity, 10 points. Grey Knights model only once per battle to start of any phase. So can select 1 Grey Knights unit within 18 visible to it, and that unit counts as within your army's hollowed ground. That's great. You always want to take that, definitely. So it's kind of like the one unit that's not going to be in hollowed ground for some reason gets to be in hollowed ground with this. Really good. Now, going back to this is what the Thousand Suns detachment should have been, right? It should have been this, and you should have, instead of purifier squads, it should have been, I don't know, Sansgor squads, Zangor squads, or, it should have been Rubric Marine squads, right? Something like that, and being able to, like, kind of extend your hollowed ground or extend your area of control with those units. All right, let's check out the detachment stratagems here. Sanctified Kill Zone, your shooting phase or fight phase, 1 Grey Knights unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight, and is within your army's hollowed ground. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of 1, or if it's purifiers, reroll all wound rolls instead. That's pretty insane with purifiers. You're definitely going to want to take a lot of those in this list, in this detachment. Flames of Sanctity, end of the fight phase, 1 purifier squad from your army that was eligible to fight this phase. Roll a d6 for each model within 6 inches of your unit, adding 1. If it includes Castellan Crow, you definitely want him then. On a 4+, it suffers d3 mortal wounds. Wow, that can be really good if there's a lot of enemy units bunched up together. Other than that, I don't find it that useful. Just D3 mortals on a 3+ with Castellian? I don't know. Yeah, so now we have Hollowed Beacon. Hollowed Beacon is a 6-inch deep strike ability, but you can't use it on Terminators. So basically, if you're arriving via deep strike or teleport assault, you get a 6-inch deep strike. I think that's pretty good, right? I mean, their original detachment has the same thing, so there you go. You don't have to be within your hollowed ground either. Oh, excuse me. Yes, you do. Sorry, you do have to be within your hollowed ground. But keep in mind, if you are a purifier squad, you are always counted within your own aura, within your hollowed ground. So you can always deep strike 6. So that is pretty cool. We have the Fires of the Covenant. Start of the opponent's movement phase. 1 Grey Knight infantry unit from your army. Okay, so until the end of the phase, each time an enemy unit is set up or ends a normal advance or fallback move within 6, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result. If your unit is wholly within your hollowed ground, on a 4+, the enemy suffers D3 mortal wounds. Now, I think this is one of the most... Oof, don't get me started. I think it's one of the most powerful denial abilities in the game for a stratagem, because it lasts the whole turn, and it's each time. It's not just once, it's every single time, and you're adding 2 to the result if you're in your hollowed ground, which means purifier units, especially big ones that you can spread across the table, are going to be basically on a 2+, dealing D3 mortal wounds to your units. Now, there is a way around this, right? Obviously, technically speaking, faster armies that are not melee oriented are going to be much better at dealing with Fires of the Covenant, but it is a good denial tool for getting units off objectives or preventing units from going on objectives. I think it's really good against 5-man units of Eldar Aspect Warriors, for example, right? It can definitely turn a fight that you are going to win against a Grey Knight unit into a fight you're going to lose. Especially, this is a good counter against the Solitaire. So the Solitaire is going to have to end outside of 6 inches no matter what, right? You're not going to be able to risk that, because on a 5 or 6, he just dies. So there's a number of situations where you just don't want to risk it. So you're basically always going to be outside of 6 inches of these units, which means, of course, that there's going to be some, situations where it's going to be really hard to charge them and stuff like that. It is a really good ability. Some people might say, yeah, it's kind of situational, but against certain armies, it's going to be really strong, and, it's a really powerful ability. Okay, let's go and look at the next one. And that's just from an Eldar perspective. I'm sure certain armies don't really care. Like, if I was playing Dark Angels and I was moving out my Terminator, D3 mortal wounds, I don't really care. But if I'm an Eldar player and every mortal wound dealt is a model dead in my unit, that sucks. Okay, Aegis Eternal. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. You select 1 Grey Knight infantry model and you get or infantry unit, and you get a 4+ invulnerable save. Okay, that's great. I think that's fine. It's great against things like fire dragons. I'll tell you that. It's not so good against most of the other anti-infantry weapons of the game, but when you're looking at things like melta weapons and stuff like that, it's good. Absolutely. Last one is Repelling Sphere. Start of your opponent's charge phase, 1 Grey Knight infantry unit. Okay, this is one of those dumb subtract 2 from charge rolls stratagems. It's subtract 1 normally, 2 if you're in your hollowed ground. I don't think that's that good, honestly. But that's the one stinker out of the whole bunch, right? Now, what I do think is it's really good at specifically denying like units like the Solitaire and like units like that, maybe like Lilith or something like that, from getting too close, because you're going to use this ability right here. You're going to use Fires of the Covenant, and then you're going to use Repelling Sphere to try to get them outside of, so they'll have to make like an 8-inch charge. I don't know. I still think that's kind of not really that great, to be honest. But yeah, for 2 CP, that costs 2 CP total. Yeah, I don't think it's that good. I do like this ability a lot, though, and it just might not be that good against a lot of factions out there, but against Eldar, single wound, high value models, it's really good. Okay, so that's the Grey Knight one. It's looking good. It's looking fresh. It's looking fine. 2009. Let's go on to the next detachment here. which is Creations of Bile. This is the Chaos Space Marines attachment, obviously based on, well, Nurgle, right? Okay, Fabius Bile. I think Fabius Bile is the Nurgle guy, right? I think he's Nurgle or something. But correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I don't know anything about the lore of Fabius Bile. I just know that he's a Nurgle lover. Or some sort of, experiment lover, so I would guess it's Nurgle. Anyway, so experimental augmentations at the start of the battle. Select which augmentations are active for Heretic Astartes infantry models, including your damn models, from your army till the end of the battle. To do so, either select one from the table below, or randomly determine two by rolling 2d6. You definitely want to roll the dice. It is better, because you get two. Yeah, I don't know if that's always going to be the case against some armies, but you definitely have more fun rolling two. If Fabius Bile is your warlord, when randomly determining the augmentations, which he is going to be your warlord, you can reroll one or both dice. Duplicated augmentations have no additional effect. Interesting. So does that mean if you roll doubles, then you just lose the effect? It said has no additional effect, but does it count? I don't know. Tell me in the comment section below. I think you should be able to re-roll it if it's a double. But that's just me. If you have Fabius Vile, you can definitely re-roll them. But what if you roll like 2 threes, right? Do you get to re-roll one of the threes? It doesn't say. Okay. I probably need a hot fix to that just to make sure people know that. Okay, we have cholinergic accelerants. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons equipped by this model. Okay, yeah, that's great. +1 attack for every model in your army. I'll take it. I'll take it. That's great. Hyperdrenal infusion. Add 2 to the move characteristic of every model in your army. Of course, it has to be either, it has to be Heretic Astartes infantry. Oh, it can't be damned models, excluding damned models. So no damned, but, all your Chaos Space Marines. Pheroneural reactions. Improve the weapon skill of melee weapons equipped by this model by 1. That's great. Supercutaneous chitination. Improve the toughness characteristic by 1. Wow, that's really good. If you just wanted +1 toughness throughout your whole army and wanted to guarantee it, that's great. Macrotensile sinews. Add 1 to the strength of melee weapons equipped by this model. That's pretty good too. Ophthalmic enhancement. Improve the ballistic skill characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by this model by 1. Guys, this is pretty good. This is pretty awesome. Pretty awesome detachment roll. Let's check out the enhancements. Surgical precision. Heretic Astartes model. Excluding damned models. The bear's melee weapons have precision. Okay, for 10 points, that's not bad. Living Carapace. Chaos Lord only. Add 1 to the bear's wounds, and it has Feel No Pain 5+. That's also really good for 15 points. Helm of the All-Seeing, especially when you consider that it's going to be, added to something like +1 toughness or +1 attack or +1 strength or something like that, right? Helm of the All-Seeing. Heretic Astartes infantry model only. Enemy units that are set up within the battlefield from reserves cannot be set up within 12 inches of the bearer. That is perfect. That is a great, that's awesome, by the way. Every army needs something like this in their roster, I think, in my opinion. Or at least access to it, right? In one of the detachments. Prime test subject, 35 points. Heretic Astartes infantry model. Could you imagine, just before I read this, could you imagine being the test subject of Fabius Bile? Oof. Anyway. He would really get along with the Dark Eldar, I think. I don't know if they do get along, but I think he would get along with the Homunculus Covens. Add 1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons equipped by the bearer. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack, you can reroll the hit. That's really strong. That's good. Okay, so it looks like we have some good detachment rolls and enhancements. Let's check out the strats. Monstrous Visages. Your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase just after the enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Heretic Astartes infantry unit from your army that was selected as a target of 1 or more attacks. Until the end of turn, each time a target attacks you, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Okay, so it's lightning fast reflexes for the Chaos Space Marines. Okay. Masters are watching. Fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. You select a heretic unit. I'm just going to say heretic infantry from now on. I hate saying Astartes. Heretic infantry until the end of the phase. Each time a model in unit is destroyed, if that model is not fought, okay, subtracting 1 from the result if it's a damned unit. Okay, so fight on 4s, but damned units get 5 up. So you don't want damned units in your army, basically. You you just don't get any bonus from having damned, and in fact, if you include damned units, you get debuffs. Interesting. Okay, so that's 4 plus fight on death, not bad. Specimens for the spider. Fight phase, 1 heretic infantry unit from your army that has not been selected to fight until the end of the phase. Each time a model in your unit makes a melee attack that targets a character unit, you can reroll the wound roll. After your unit is fought, if one or more characters were destroyed as a result of those attacks, select one enemy unit within 6 of your unit. That unit must take a battle shock test. If the enemy's warlord was destroyed as a result, each enemy unit within 6 must take battle shock. That's kind of cool. I like that. It is kind of 2 CP, but rerolls wounds, right? That's really strong. That can really mean you can hit hard against some Death Stars. So that's pretty good, especially with something like Dev Wounds. Delayed mutations. Your command phase. 1 heretic Astartes infantry model or unit from your army. Your unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Then select 1 augmentation. Until the start of your next command phase, models in your unit have the selected augmentation in addition to any others. That is pretty awesome. It is kind of expensive though, but you can give your unit +1 toughness if it didn't have it already. So that's kind of cool. Diabolical regeneration. Your command phase. 1 heretic Astartes infantry unit. 1 destroyed model is returned to your unit. If it's battle line, D3 destroyed models return to your unit. That's pretty good. I mean, it's decent. D3 destroyed models come back. It's not like the best thing ever, but it's okay, right? When destroyed models come back, it's always good. Usually it's better in Death Stars, but it looks like, like this with Chosen could be really good. But Chosen, of course, aren't battle lines. So you're only getting 1 destroyed model instead of D3. Maybe this would be better on just your normal Legionaries. Especially if they have the +1 toughness. Like if you're going all in and you're just selecting +1 toughness right away and you're not worrying about anything else, that could be really good. But at that point, why not just play Nurgle, I guess? But anyway. Auto stimulants. Start of your charge phase. 1 heretic infantry unit from your army until the end of the turn. Your unit is eligible to declare charge in a turn which it advanced. Cool. So this seems like a very melee oriented, for the most part, army, but the cool thing is you can have it not be just about melee. You can have it about shooting. Like if you want it to be super fast, +2 move. If you want it to hit super hard, +1 strength or +1 to your attacks. If you want it to be really good at range combat, +1 to hit. If it's a balanced list and you don't give a fuck what happens, roll 2 dice and then re-roll it with Fabius Bile and just see what you get and just have have a great time. I think this is an amazing detachment. It looks super fun. And, you get to still do dark packs with and stuff like that because that's the army role is dark packs. So yeah, it looks fun. Looks great. I don't know if it's like better than like, you know, Renegade Raiders or any of the, more competitive Chaos Space Marine detachments, but I like it a lot and I think it's super cool. Okay, moving on. Quester Forge Pact. This is the Imperial Knights one. So, Cogbound Alliance. Imperial Knight units from your army have the following ability. In your command phase, 1 model in this unit regains 1 lost wound. If the unit is within 3 inches of 1 or more friendly Tech Priest models, 1 model in this unit gains D3 wounds instead. Okay, cool. Adeptus Mechanicus from models from your army have the following ability. So this is just like the Chaos Knights one, except instead of cultists, you're getting Adeptus Mechanicus units. Divine Inspiration. Each time a model in this unit makes a range attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If the unit is within 6 of 1 or more friendly Imperial Knight models, reroll a wound roll of 1 as well. That's really cool. So you're getting, a little bit of wounds back on your Imperial Knight units, and your Adeptus Mechanicus units are hitting a little bit better. You can take up to 500 points of Adeptus Mechanicus units. The following units, you can't take everything. Like, I don't think you can take the robots, and you can't take some of the other stuff. But, you can take quite a few little, Skiteri Vanguard, the Rangers, you can take Tech Priests, stuff like that. Okay, interesting. You have for enhancements, Omasian Champion, Imperial Knight model only, add 4 to the Bear's Wounds characteristic. Wow. That's really good for 30 points. I would definitely take this on like a big night, make it even more hard to kill. Especially since I think the army rule is you get 6 up, feel no pain. I think that's the army rule. So then you get Knight of the Opus Machina. Imperial Knights model only. Each time the bearer makes a range attack, if the bearer is within 6 of one or more friendly Adeptus Mechanicus units, reroll a hit roll 1. Okay, not bad. Magos Questoris, 35 points. Tech Priest model only. While within 3 of one or more Imperial Knight units, it has Lone Op. In your command phase, select one Imperial Knight's model within 3 inches. The model regains up to 2 lost wounds. That's cool. It is kind of expensive at 35, but that's fine. The Eldar one's kind of expensive too, and it's worse because it's D3 instead of just straight 2, which may not seem like a big deal, but, it's less reliable. Vocifer Magnificent. Aura, 15 points. Imperial Knights model only. While an enemy unit is within 6 of the bearer, worsen the leadership characteristic of models in that unit by 1. While a friendly Adeptus Mechanicus unit is within 6 of the bearer, improve the leadership characteristic of models in the Adeptus Mechanicus unit by 1. No, I wouldn't take that probably. I think that's kind of lame. Just reducing leadership. And the reason why is because there's not really any Battle Shock stuff. Right? There's no like battle shock enhancements or anything like that. We will check the stratagems though. Maybe the stratagems do kind of have battle shock come into play, so let's see. Omasiah's Grace. Any phase just after a mortal wound is allocated to Imperial Knights model, you get the Feel No Pain 5+ against mortal wounds. Okay, just like the Eldar version of it for Armored Warhost, which I think is probably just better on Knights because they're tougher in general, so you get, a better result out of the 5+ Feel No Pain. Vengeance of the Machine Cult. Any phase, one Imperial Knights unit from your army that was just destroyed. You can use the stratagem on it even though it was destroyed. Until the end of phase, the enemy unit that was destroyed is marked. Oh, okay, this is the same thing as the Chaos one, right? Adeptus Mechanicus models from your army gain lethal hits. Bonded Imperative. Your command phase, just before an Imperial Knights character unit from your army uses a bondsman ability. So this is their army ability, I think. So when selecting targets, for that four that use the bondsman ability. Okay, you can select one friendly Mechanicus unit within 12 of your unit, or instead selecting one Armiger model till the start of your next command phase. Every model in the Adeptus Mechanicus unit is affected by that bondsman ability. You cannot target a Knight Preceptor with this stratagem. Interesting. I don't know why they would use this restriction, but I'm guessing it's kind of like maybe it's an OP interaction. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. I'm not like a pro Knight player or anything like that. I don't know exactly what that would do. But yeah, anyway. Let's move on. Machine Focus, your command phase. One Imperial Knights unit from your army until the start of your next turn. Your unit can ignore all modifiers to weapon skill or ballistic skill and hit roll or wound roll. That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And it just kind of like further cements that GW really wants Death Stars dead. Like big Death Stars with like fortune and like -1 to wound, -1 to hit abilities. Like they really want that stuff to be killed out of the game. Because they're just giving so many armies this, oh, we just ignore your modifiers now for a strat, for a CP. It's like, alright, well, that sucks. Okay. By the way, not a huge deal. I mean, I've never really been a huge fan of Death Stars anyway, or anything like that. Like they're not my bag, But it really is cementing. Like people that are using triple brick Eldar lists are gonna have, I think, a lot more trouble until the Codex hits. And then even when the Codex hits, I think basically triple brick dies anyway because Strands of Fate's going away. All right, aggression begets aggression. Your shooting phase, one Imperial Knights unit from your army or Knights character unit from your army, and one friendly Adeptus Mechanicus unit within 6. They gain the assault ability on their weapons. Kind of cool. Not like super good, but kind of cool. Then we have Thronegeist Fury. Your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit is set up ends a normal advance or fallback move. One Imperial Knights Titanic unit from that army is within 24. Oh no. I hope it's not what I think it is. Select one ranged weapon equipped by that model in your unit. That model can shoot at that enemy unit. When doing so, the model can only make attacks with that weapon, and each time makes a range. Oh, okay. Okay, so here's what it is. It is Overwatch, but it can only use one weapon to shoot, and it needs sixes to hit. So I don't think that's that good. I think it's like, it's decent, yeah, for sure, but it's still hitting on sixes. You only get to pick one weapon. You don't get to fire at things that are, out of line of sight. It has to be visible. So, yeah. Anyway, good stratagem. I'm glad they kind of added that back in a little bit, but like a lesser version of it. Like, yeah, you can shoot, but only with one ranged weapon, and only if it's an eligible target, right? So only if you can see it. And then you do need sixes to hit, regardless of any modifiers. So yeah, there might be some cool strategies that you can pull off with that, but yeah, for the most part, I think that's okay. Okay, cool detachment. Honestly, lots of flavor with the Adeptus Mechanicus units. I'm not again, like I said, I'm not like a very experienced Knights player at all. I've never played them. I've just played against them and seen them played. So I don't know what kind of combos are available to this army, but it looks pretty decent. Let's go to our last detachment. Bridgehead Strike. This is the Imperial Guard detachment that they just got. And I have to say, it is really cool. I read it and I was really happy. I was like, wow, this is really cool for guard players. It seems like what it is it's a Tempestus Scion based detachment that also wants some infantry support. So we have detachment rule, only the best. Each time an Astra Militarum infantry model from your army makes an attack, reroll hit roll 1. That is a good ability. However, is it as good as what they have now? Lethal hits against infantry if you're infantry. No. Or, lethal hits against tanks if you're a tank. No. It's not as good. But they have a second version, the second like little bonus here, which I think kind of makes up for it. Each time a Militarum Tempestus model from your army makes a range attack in a turn in which it was set up on the battlefield from reserves or disembarked from a transport, add 1 to the wound roll. This is really good. I hope that we get something like this in our Aspect Warrior detachment. I think that would be super cool if we had +1 to wound when we get out of a transport, and then maybe we get like something similar to this. I think would be really cool for Aspect Warriors, in addition to having something like Battle Focus as our army rule. Okay, keywords. Tempestus Scions gain an objective control and they gain Battle Line. That makes sense. You can have a Militarum Tempestus officer as your warlord, or you need one as your warlord to get this bonus. That also makes sense. Enhancements. Bombast class Vox Array, 25 points. Militarum Tempestus officer. Instead of only being able to issue one order, you can issue up to 3 orders to different regiment units. That is really good. I think you definitely want to take that probably. But it depends on your build. I think if you have a lot of officers in your list, maybe you don't need it. But if you only have like 1 or 2 officers, I think this is a good purchase. If you have a lot of units, priority drop beacon, Militarum Tempestus officer only. The bearer's unit can be set up during the using the deep strike ability, in the reinforcement step of your first, second, or third movement phase, regardless of mission rules. Okay, so basically what this does, it allows you to deep strike turn 1. I don't like this. I don't like this. Now, what you can do with it is, yeah, and never mind. You can't even rapid ingress with it or anything like that because it says the reinforcement step of your first, second, or third movement phase, right? So you can't do that. Yeah, I don't think that's worth it. I think it's kind of cool. Turn 1 deep strike, right? But I don't really think it's that great. Shroud Projector, Militarum Tempestus officer only. Enemy units cannot use the Fire Overwatch stratagem to shoot the buried unit. It's only 15 points. I think that's really good. It makes me wonder why the Sky Splinter enhancement that does the same thing is 25 points. It makes me wonder a little bit. But I guess they figured out, oh, look, it's actually not that worth, it's not really worth 25 points. So yeah, 15 points, yeah, that's a good enhancement for that. That's really, you know what? I just thought of this, but especially if they have something with a 6-inch deep strike, that's really good at countering things like Wind Riders in the backfield. They can just overwatch something like this to death. Especially because you can have this in a command squad, Tempestus command squad, in a unit of Tempestus Scions, and then they could just go to town on your unit. So you really do have to screen this out. I think this is a really good enhancement. Advanced Augury, infantry model only. After both players have deployed their armies, okay, so this is a redeployability. Again, really good. This is a army that wants to be in reserve. So being able to redeploy 3 of those units is awesome. That's a great ability for this list. Okay, let's check out the enhancements. So we have the Bellicosa drop. The reinforcement step of your movement phase. 1 Astra Militarum infantry unit from your army that has the reserves or deep strike. Okay, so this is 3-inch deep or 6-inch deep strike, but you're not eligible to declare a charge. So this is the 6-inch deep strike one that I thought they would have. So there you go. Does this mean that Tempestus Aquilans are basically not worth taking in this? Well, I think you probably still want them because it saves you a CP, and they can still 3-inch deep strike or 6-inch deep strike just normally. But yeah, I think it's worth taking them still, just maybe not as many of them. You have Firing Hot, your shooting phase. And actually, you know what? Just because of the army rule, right? Just because of the +1 to wound that you get from coming out of reserves, I think that it is worth taking the Aquilans, even so, because they hit a lot harder with their stuff. Okay, Firing Hot, shooting phase, 1 Militarum Tempestus or Cascane unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, improve the strength and armor characteristics of Hotshot, carbines, las guns, las pistols, okay, all the Hotshot weapons, their strength and armor penetration by 1. So they're getting strength 4, AP -2, and that's on top of being able to be ordered with take aim. So they're, okay, so get this. This is pretty insane. A squad, a Tempestus command squad with Tempestus Scions, is hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. It is wounding things because it's coming out of reserve. It's strength 4. It is wounding Marines on 3+. It is AP -2. And that's just on the hotshot guns. It only affects hotshot guns. It doesn't affect everything. But that's pretty insane, guys. That's pretty good for 1 CP. Okay, now if that wasn't good, well, that's really strong. Now let's see what Fire and Relocate does. So shooting phase, 1 Astra Militarum unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, your unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced. Yeah, that's okay. I don't think that's that good, but it's okay. It's good for getting to objectives. Servo Designators, your shooting phase just after an Astra Militarum unit, infantry unit has shot. The target is that Astra Militarum infantry unit. Select 1 enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks. Until the end of the phase, oh god, the enemy unit cannot have the benefit of cover. Okay, so here's what you do, right? You take a mortar, you take a single mortar, you use this command point in your shooting phase. You shoot at an enemy unit that is out of line of sight. You hit that enemy unit with the mortar, of course, and then you bring down the Bellicosa drop of, 5 Tempestus Scions with the 10... No, I said that wrong. Sorry. The 5 command squad with the 10 Tempestus Scions, and then you use Firing Hot. You basically burn 3 CP, so you could just auto-destroy something in cover. Well, I don't know if you want to use the servo designators necessarily, but it is good, right? Being able to do that, that's really powerful. Okay, aerial extraction is Skyleap, basically. So end of your opponent's fight phase, 1 Valkyrie unit or Astra Militarum unit from your army that has a deep strike ability that is not within engagement range. Remove the unit from the battlefield and place it into Strat Reserve. I wish that the Mekdar, the armored Warhost had that ability. That'd be really good. Unfortunately, they do not. All right, last one, on my position. End of your opponent's fight phase, 1 regiment infantry unit from your army that is within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. This is the quintessential Imperial Guard stratagem, right? Check this out. So you have to be within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. You roll a d6 for each enemy unit within engagement range of your unit. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers d6 mortal wounds. Now that's pretty good, right? Just straight up d6 mortals. It could suck, but it could be good. But then here's this. Then your unit suffers 3d3 mortal wounds. This is So there's a couple situations where this is actually really good for you because you don't want your models engaged, right? So it's at the end of your opponent's fight phase. So check this out. You're stuck in combat. Let's say that you totally get overwhelmed by a unit and you have like one model left, right? You have one model left, and the last model in the unit is like he's in the Voxcaster. He's like, fire on my target, on my position, and the planes, the Valkyries, the strike fighters are just going, and they just freaking just dump bombs on that area, and the guy just goes up in smoke, and and then your unit dies too. The enemy unit actually takes immortals, but I just think it's really funny how the actual guy that called in the strike takes more mortal wounds than the enemy unit. So this is something you don't want to do if you have most of your squad still alive. But if you just have like one guy left, like the sergeant, he's just like ready to, make a brave sacrifice for the emperor, you just go, oh my god. They should have had this actually in the original detachment. I was always saying they should have some sort of artillery strike where you could like just totally wipe your own unit out, but also wipe out the enemy unit. I think that would be hilarious. A really funny stratagem. I think it just kind of it just puts a smile to my face. I just love it. I love stratagems with like kind of flavorful stuff that might be, is it always going to be good? No, it's not going to be super competitive all the time. But there's some cases where I have to say, like, it could kind of be good, right? To kill an enemy unit, especially on an objective. Think about that, right? If an enemy unit has like a couple of Marines left on the objective, and you're like, well, I lost that objective. I only have one model. Oh, wait. On my position. And then you just destroy everything. That's great. Yeah, because if you had a couple Marines left, you'd have to roll a 4 to kill them. But if you rolled that 4, they don't get the objective, I don't know. It could be good. It could be good. I think it's just even if it's not good, it's just flavorful. It's just fun. So yeah, that's the Imperial Guard detachment. I think that's really good with Tempestus Scions. I think you have some like really good bonuses there. Now, do I think it's as good as just straight up lethal hits against all infantry or, lethal hits against all vehicles? No, I don't. I don't think that's as good. But you are getting a little bit with the +1 to wound here. You are getting a reroll hit rolls of 1. You are going to be hitting on 2s with most of your, Tempestus units, and that is really strong. So being able to reroll hit rolls of 1 and also you know, be able to, God, I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, also be able to get +1 to wound and +1 strength, +1 AP. That's really strong. So, again, I have played Guard in the past, but I've not played them in 10th or 9th edition. I was mostly playing them before that in, 7th, 6th edition, really, 5th edition, and prior to that, on and off, but I was never like they were never my main army except when I was like a little kid, right? So like I have a lot of joy for the Imperial Guard, but nowadays it's just way too daunting to start an Imperial Guard army with how expensive it is, how many models you need, and I've painted a full 2000 point Imperial Guard army and it takes a lot of time. And basically what I did was I even went out and I splurged on the Army Painter Army Green primer so that I could cut down on painting time. It took me 6 months of working every single night to paint up a 2,000 pointed Pro Guard army that was a balanced force. I had infantry, I had sentinels, I had tanks. It took me 6 months. And I was sitting in front of a computer after work every day for about 3 or 4 hours just painting. And it took me that long, even with the primer. So yeah, Imperial Guard, it's a lot, and I think anybody getting into the faction, it's obviously going to be a lot. But I will say this army is more elite. There's less models to, have to paint up and stuff like that because they're Tempestus. So there's, quite a few less. And that's kind of cool, to have an army like that's, kind of elite and more hard hitting and really flavorful and deep strikey and, can do uppy downy and do objectives and stuff. I think that's really cool. I love this detachment. And, I hope it does really well. I think people might actually start switching over to it with all the nerfs. I mean, Lord Solar Leontis, guys, he got nerfed hard for some reason. So you got the Militarum Tempestus officer who can kind of pick up the slack there with the Bombast class Vox array. And, you're not going to really have that many vehicles in this list probably, except for things like Sentinels. I could definitely see Sentinels being really good in a list like this, like Scout Sentinels to, mark targets. And yeah, wow. Yeah, I just think this is a really cool detachment. If I still played guard, I would be switching over to this detachment immediately because it's so fun. But anyway, okay, so that's it for the detachments. I know that was a long video. What does this have to do with the Eldari, right? Well, to be honest, we only have a couple months till our codex. It seems like a far ways off, but it's really not. The Imperial Guard Codex is literally coming out next month. So what do I think is going to happen? Well, the Imperial Guard are obviously going to change, right? They're going to go through a lot of changes. Their bodies are changing. They're becoming, more mature and stuff like that. So they're going to go through their own, puberty, and they're going to actually become either one or two things: really smart, intelligent, and OP, or they're gonna kind of be like, it's just gonna be like a lamer version of what they have now with their whole lethal hits. I actually think that they're going to be better. Personally, I think they're going to be harder hitting. I think they're going to be faster, possibly in some detachments, but they're also going to have to, kind of pick and choose what they want to do. They're not going to just get everything. I think lethal hits against everything is going to go away. Essentially, it's a really powerful ability. They've had it for a couple of editions now. It's something that either is really, really, really good, or it's been bad if it has a condition, right? Like if you have to stand still to use it, it sucks. But if you have to, if you just get it base, it's really good. So GW is probably going to just change it, I would say. I think Born Soldiers should be something else, but that would make the army a lot more interesting in terms of what you can take and what the different combinations of units you can take are, and they're going to get different attachments and stuff. So as far as the Imperial Guard goes, I don't think this is like game breaking or anything. This detachment, it's definitely not going to be super meta because there's not much time to establish a meta with this army before they get their codex. As far as the Eldar go, we'll see. I think Warhost, Armored Warhost, is going to be a very codex reliant detachment. I think right now it's not good, and I think there's ways to win with it. But I've been kind of play testing on Tabletop Simulator a little bit, kind of going through turns and seeing what I can do with the assault and the scout and everything. And I'm kind of realizing that you can maybe do the exact same thing with Battle Host. And the only real differences are the units that can maybe score you additional points by deep striking 6, or units that can advance and disembark. And that's like two things that you have going for that detachment, and that's basically it. I think that the assault word on certain vehicles can be useful, but you're playing into a kind of play style that heavily relies on going first, that heavily relies on just trying to overwhelm your opponent with armor. And I don't think the Eldar actually do that well because our armor is extremely expensive, for what the durability is. So, Wave Serpents, even at 110 points, are expensive, right? Tau can do that because their Devil's Fishers are like 85 points, 80 points. Imperial Guard can do it because they have like 70-point Sentinels, or not 70-point Sentinels, sorry. They have like 70-point Chimeras. So they can play that game a lot better because they just have more tanks on the field, right? That are a little bit more, they're not more durable, but they're just at least as durable or like slightly less durable. But I actually personally believe they're a little bit more because of the smoke stratagem. But that's just my personal take on it. And yeah, the Eldar just they're not very tough. So really that army is going to be hard to pull off. I'm going to do a video on it anyway, even though I've kind of play tested it and seen that, well, it's okay. It's just not that good, I mean, it'll be much better with battle focus. With battle focus, I think it becomes way better. And especially when you consider that the data sheets are probably going to be a little bit different. So, things that generate strands dice are going to be different. We're just going to have to see, though. Honestly, we're just going to have to see. So anyway, that's it for today's video. That's the review. I like all these detachments. They all look pretty good. The only ones I don't have here, of course, are the Eldari and Drukhari one. The Drukhari one is amazing. I think it's tied for one of the best detachments in the entire Grotsmas calendar. And I think that the Eldari one is just it's slightly better. Well, I'll just say it. It's better than the Thousand Suns detachment. The Thousand Suns detachment sucks. I think it is better than that one, but it's like second to last. If I had to rank them, like I said, I would rank the Thousand Suns one last. I'd rank this one just above it, and that's it. So anyway, all right, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think of the attachments. I know this was a long one. We're going to have probably one or two more, videos like this as Grotsmas continues, and we're just going to kind of play it by ear from there. All right, guys, more videos to come, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much once again to my patrons and supporters who have supported the channel over the last 2 years plus now. If you do want to become a Patreon member and help support the channel, I do have free trials activated, so you can get in for free, which will grant you permanent access to the Discord community for no cost to you. Of course, you can just always cancel the free trial there. And you get to join an amazing community of Eldar players who love talking about strategies, tactics, and of course, hobbying. I also have a channel store page with some great Christmas gifts for, yourself or for other people that play Eldar, or if you want to troll one of your friends with an Eldar inspired apparel shirt. I have a couple of funny ones like Big Reaper Energy, and I have Santa Eldrad and Santa Death Jester, and I have a couple of other ones there that are funny. So check those out if you want to. And yeah, also check out the affiliate link in the description if you want to get some discounted minis on Amazon. It's kind of the last month you're going to be able to get combat patrols for the Eldar. I think after the Imperial Guard Codex drops, the old combat patrol is going to, kind of stop being sold. So, grab them while you can on Amazon, guys, because you're not going to see a good deal like that again with 6 Wind Riders, 10 Guardians, a Farseer, Wraithlord. You're just not going to see something like that and of value, right? You're not going to see the value that combat patrol has. So, make sure you pick those up. I myself, I'm gonna try to pick up as many of them as possible before the codex comes out, and maybe I can, give them to you guys out with a big discount or something like that. Alrighty. Anyway, have a good one, you guys. Peace out, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.